Hello, people. Guess where we are? This is a live stream drone, so we will attempt something a bit daring in the very beginning. So, we did it! Yay! You saw what kind of, weather it is in Tampere now, so we don't have to do the whole weather chit-chat, small talk thing that we Finnish people are not so very good at. And you saw that it's an evening here. You might be taking your morning coffee if you're in the States, or you're trying to stay awake if you happen to be emulsive or someone else that's way in the other end of the world. Welcome to Tampere. Very much want to thank everyone in the team that has made this possible to make this Save Analog cameras results, because there was so much data. Before I start with the keynote, we have Vincent coming to tell you more about how to participate in the conversation, and see you soon.
Hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Vincent from the blog 1 Year with Film Only. I've been helping the guys over the past few weeks to put everything together, so we are really excited to start this. I'll be gathering the question on social media, and I will be linking with Emulsive on Twitter, so if you have any question during the show, just let us know, and we'll save that for the Q&A session at the end. There's not much for me to say about it, and I think we can start the presentation now.
Thank you. You can use the hashtag Save Analog Cameras for the conversation. And yeah, let's begin. One very important question before we go into the data, and that is why. Why do we as individuals should film? What is the reason? I have here my father's camera. It's a 1980s Nikon FE2. He bought it in 1987 when he was moving to Bangladesh, and he bought it from Hong Kong. And we used to move quite a lot when I was a kid, from country to country, and we have very little belongings that went with us, and this camera was the most expensive thing that we kind of moved to every country with. And I remember when I was 7 or 8, we were doing like Grand Canyon tour in the States, and my father gave me this camera. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a manual focus camera, obviously, and you can really screw up the shutter speed. So when he gave it to me, he trusted me. He showed me how the light meter works and what's the shutter time I should go for. And I remember it from a kid, because film needs trust, because you can't see it straight away. I can give a DSLR to my child who's 3 and let her play with it as much as possible, and everything is fine, and no one cares what's coming out. But film needs trust from the photographer, and my father trusted me, and that's the reason I love cameras, and that's the reason why I want them to stick around. Here's a picture of me when I was a teenager. That's the same camera. It had a Leica 19mm R Elmarit on it, and it was a T-Max roll. It was my first roll that I had bought myself, and then I did what all teens do, take a mirror selfie. These cameras have a history which is so much longer than that digital can bring, and that's my first reason for why. And the second reason is that I have now kids of my own, and I almost screwed up the memories of my daughter. The first half a year went, and then my hard drive broke. Yes, you're supposed to have backups, but I didn't. I had to pay 500 euros for it to be serviced, and I understood that, okay, I'm now saving the memories of my children, and I'm responsible for them, so I wanted to shoot them in film so that I know they are there for tens of years or even 100 years. These are my two whys, and I wanted to start with the why before we went to this, because that's the single most important thing we as film photographers or film enthusiasts in the world can talk about, because that's the thing that gets people really excited, why you shoot film. And that's the thing that gets new people into this art or scene. What is Save Analog Cameras then? I'll just go through it fast, because most of you probably who will see this haven't filled in the form we are going to talk about. A lot of you did, over 7,500 of you did, but we hope that this is a start of a conversation that will be seen by many. In April, I set up a website, cameraventures.com/help, that I wrote an article into it, and many people helped and translated it into different languages. And in the end, it was in very many languages, and we got, in 4 months, over 7,500 people replied to it, from over 100 countries, and it's now a very big resource of information of what the analog world looks like in 2017. So, my main point in the article was that to have a future, film photography needs new users. It's not enough that the old users use more film, because we get older. We need a new generation. And to do that, I mapped out 4 different types of personalities, 40 different types of film photographer personalities. And one was the so-called newcomer, a person that has been very little time with film. And I wanted to find out what are the characteristics that make a newcomer different from the other 3 groups. In this talk, I will have 6 major sections, and this is not only a keynote. We have released over 50 articles today into the web, and this is dive through of what they contain. and I'm just trying to help you explain to you what's all around our site now. The 6 sections are the community worldwide, the content creators people are learning from, where to buy film, where to develop and scan film, where to repair cameras, and then localized results. First, let's go to the community. Who are actually shooting film? This was the single biggest surprise for me in the whole campaign, because 55.9% of the people shooting film, or not shooting film, but that were so dedicated to shooting film that they were willing to fill in a 10-minute internet questionnaire. When have you done that for anything for free? They were under 34 years old. That means that they've never in their childhood seen someone play or take a photo with film, or it wasn't the norm when they grew up into their teens. And this is hugely good news, because here you can go also to the community section. These are active Tableau graphs, which means that you can press on, pretty much anything and it changes. And you can check what is the community like in your country. For Finland, for example, we tend to be a bit older than the rest of the world. We tend to be a lot less artistic, more engineer type, and our social circle size tends to be smaller, which is no surprise for anyone who's Finnish, but for the rest of us, we even out. And you can see the little differences. You can go and take a look at your own country, or you can go and take a look at where do the newcomers come from, or you can go and take a look what age groups are active and so forth. The second part is the content creators. We have now listed from the 7,500 results, the top 10 Facebook groups people are, or pages people are following, or they are not following, they're recommending for other people, the top 10 Instagram accounts, the top 10 Twitter accounts, the top 10 YouTube accounts, and then a top 20 blog / app / rest of the things. There's an article written for every single one of these top 10s, and it has more information and link for them. This is what, for example, the Instagram map looks like. There's also article, but there's a map made where it shows that this graph, for example, is Bellamy, a Japan camera hunter, is the #1 most recommended Instagrammer according to our survey. And you can go see again what is the most recommended in your country, what is the most recommended by your age group, or whatever. Now, the third question was where to buy film. And this was kind of funny, because at the moment we were starting to process the results, which there is a lot of into this question also. Karina contacted me, and she had already massed a map with 250 or so developing places to buy film at that point. So we thought that, okay, there's no point for us to do another map. We gave her our results. There's so much that she's still working on them, but she's got 600 places mapped out. places mapped out worldwide. You can see kind of the map here. There are different, all the continents except Africa for some reason are represented. So there's quite a lot of info. There's a lot of info still missing. So if you want to participate with your knowledge, you can go to wheretobuyfilm.co, not .com. That's another place. And it's not active, but .co. And there you can see the map and take part in filling it out. And Karina is doing a great job on this. Now, the fourth thing we want to have a say at is where do people develop and scan film. And this is the thing where we noticed that newcomers are the most different from all the other groups. Here you can see on the left is the total balance of the world, where it has some people doing it themselves because it's cheaper, because it's faster, or because they're better. And then other option is so big. But when you take only the newcomers, the amount of people doing it in a local store or a lab that services them online is a lot bigger. And this totally makes sense when you think about it. When you shot your first roll of film, or did you develop it yourself? No, probably not, unless you were doing black and white in a school thing. At least with a color film, which is the easiest entry point for a digital teen, it's very easy if there's a lab doing everything. And there is, this is kind of a serious situation, because labs are, there's two kinds of labs left in the world. There's labs with too much work, because they're doing a lot of newcomer things, they're having competitions, they have a strong local community and things like that. And then there are labs that put their machine up and running maybe once a week, and they don't have enough volume to keep the machine going in a way that it doesn't break. And the labs with too much work cannot get enough machines, and the labs that have very little work just keep rising the prices so that newcomers cannot afford shooting film, or it seems a bit harsh when you have to do 30 or 40 euros for film plus development plus scanning and maybe even pictures. And to have a future, we need to ensure everyone has the access to their first analog photos. That's the basic problem, that if we don't have good labs, we will not have an easy way for people to access analog photography. So those who are doing labs at the moment, if you are full, yes, you can contact me, but if you're not full with work, please contact me. I have a suggestion that might help you get some more work, and we could get more people into the genre. Again, for this, there is a map already available. It's called the Emulsive Film Development, whatever, Global Film Lab Map. That's the name. It's on emulsive.org. Again, we didn't see a point for doing another map. This is a really good map, and it's really accurate. So if you're looking for a lab, this is the place to go. Now, the fifth question was where to repair film cameras. And this, as I said in the video introduction that was going around social media, we had some like joyful things, like joyful news, the fact that the answering people were really young, but we have also some kind of action points we would love the community to take action on. And this is the action point that's most important, because from our results, 70% of the community couldn't name a place where they could fix their camera if it broke, or if their friend had broken camera, they couldn't recommend any place for them. And this is quite a large number. Obviously, basic cameras for newcomers are really cheap still. You can get a fabulous camera for under 100 euros. Even for 50 you can get something really nice. But that will not be the case forever. And we cannot always keep it so that when a camera breaks we just toss it away or put it into the shelves forever. We have to keep repairing them if we want to raise the amount of people shooting film. And the rest, the 30% that could name a place, named us 470 different places. This was basically around 2,000 people named us 470 different places. So it was really, how would I call it? This is the top list of places that got over six mentions. You cannot probably see anything, but there's only around 30 or 40 shops that got mentioned over 6 times. And this is where we need most help. There's 470 like raw data that we have. Jordan from with the Instagram nick Cameraplex has been going through it, and he made this form so we could verify which of the 470 actually are repair shops. Because for example, the 470 contained Carmencita Labs, which is a developing place that doesn't have any repair functions whatsoever. So we would need to confirm the labs that are actually taking work in. So if you know a lab that is taking work in, it most probably is in the 470. If it's not, then you can email us. But if it is, go please and verify it on the form that is in the article that we published. Alongside the main article, which is basically the same content than this keynote, we had over 50 different articles published. There were the articles about social media, there were some articles about film labs and things like that, but then there were localized articles. There were localized articles from Norway to Brazil to Germany to Russia, different languages, different content, and in those people in the team went through the local results manually and wrote a recommendation based on it. And there's over 50 articles that have been published today. And we didn't get all the major areas. For example, the US was too much data for one man to handle, and we'll have to figure that out later. But many areas got their own localized articles, and even in their own language. A link to everything is available at cameraventures.com/results. There is this keynote in text format, and then the video will come there, obviously there also, but then there are the links you can go through. In the original Save Analog Cameras article, I presented 4 different threats. The first one was that the developing and scanning machines will have to retire. That problem we still have going on. The second was that the big film production lines will have to retire. That also is going on, but since the publication of the article, I've been getting information from companies and individuals, and it looks like there is no immediate threat to film as a concept. Companies like Adox and Film Ferrania have plans for decades, for a very long time, and yes, we will lose the cheapest €2 film or $2 film that you can get at the grocery store, but we will not lose color film at like completely. We will not lose film completely, and there isn't like danger in that. The third one is that the cameras will retire if they're not serviced. And the fourth one is that the already available cameras are not actually available. They are in the hands of collectors that have too many cameras, or they are in the hands of just normal people in cupboards in Europe and the US and Japan especially. The cameras were never tossed or recycled. They are still somewhere, but they are not actively in circulation. And here we in Finland want to try to make our share. We don't have a special know-how for chemistry so much that we could start to do film, and there are other companies doing that, and we are an engineer kind of country with a nice know-how, and we like to pull together to do nice things. And it's Finland is turning 100 years this year, and we've talked with the repair centers and the biggest shop in town, Kameratori, which I'm also a part of, and Camera Ventures, and we want to try to save 100,000 cameras by 2020. We're now at around 35,000 cameras saved with the shops that are working together since 2010, so we have to keep up and start to do a bit faster, or grow things, but this is our kind of dream, to rescue 100,000 cameras by 2020, and we'll start a project on that, and you can go and check out camerarescue.org next week. We'll have some information there. So we hope to make the last 2 threats kind of gray, at least for Europe, from Finland, and that way help the analog world forward. And to sum it all up, I still recommend the why question. This is my daughter. She was supposed to pose for me for Instagram with an old camera because it's cool. Old cameras are cool. But I had already winded up the camera. So she took her first film shot just when I was taking this shot from her. And I want to someday do it properly, like my father did it to me, that he gave me this camera and said that I trust you, and you know, you take the pictures from this trip. And I want that trust to go on, and I want these cameras to go on, and that's why we did this whole project. And I'm so very thankful for everyone who's been helping. If you've found this helpful or the data helpful, please do articles on your blogs or Facebook or whatever. Use the material as you want, because it's up for grabs for anyone. And when you do, please do talk about your why while you do it, because that's the part that really gets people excited. And the domain you should go to, or the URL, is cameraventures.com/results. There is the linking to all of the articles I was talking about. And thank you. Vincent will come and still help with social media.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So for those of you who just joined the live, welcome to the Save Analog Cameras live stream. Just a quick reminder: you can submit your question to Twitter using the hashtag #SaveAnalogCameras, or also on the feed on YouTube, or as well on the event on Facebook. So without further ado, you've been all waiting for him. So I hand over the mic to Bellamy for his presentation.
Okay, hello everybody. I guess you know who I am. Thank you, Juho, for the wonderful speech, but also thank you for bringing me here to Finland so I could come and talk to you about, I guess, nice. I guess the future of analog photography, or the past, the future, whatever that may be. Back in April this year, I wrote an article on the site. It was something I've been thinking about for a long time. And it was, I wrote an article about the future of compact cameras, to be precise. You see, I've been doing this job for a number of years. I've seen how film trends have come and go and changed. And, you know, when I started doing Japan Camera Hunter, there was a certain amount of pessimism amongst film photographers. People felt that film was dead, and that was the hashtag. You know, film is not dead. Film is not dead. We've got to try and rescue film. And at first, I sort of swallowed this pill myself. You know, I believed, oh, we've got to save film. We've got to save film. And over the time, things have changed. You know, if you look at now, we've got Kodak releasing film. We've got Forania going to be bringing out more film. And plenty of other companies as well, myself included. Zorki, you know, bringing out. You've got all of these sort of new film stocks coming out. It's very exciting. Things are developing. Things are changing. I mean, Polaroid have just knocked things out of the park. So that is less of an issue. The market has changed. It's leveled out from what it was, say 10 to 15 years ago, when everybody started buying digital cameras and everybody dropped film. And now it's come back, and we're looking at to be a bit different. So we've got a leveling out of the market where the people who were sort of getting into digital cameras, getting very excited about it, and now suddenly going, oh, well, maybe I can have both. So we're not seeing, we're not going to see this film is dead. That's no longer a hashtag, no longer an issue. So it's no longer the time to be worrying about the film. As Juho said, Forania, companies like this, they've got 50, even perhaps 100-year plans of what they want to be producing. Now we're looking at how the market's going to change. And that's going to be sort of the next few years. The market is going to change rapidly. It's never going to be as cheap as it was, and people should stop hoping for that, because that's not going to happen. It's never going to be as cheap as it was. What you're going to have is alternative processes. You're going to have more boutique sort of things. The way you can shoot film as an accompaniment to the other work that you do, something that complements the other things you do. The fact of the matter is, digital is really, really good for media, and it's faster. So of course, media companies are going to use that. That's how it works. They want stuff right now. They don't want it in a few days' time. They want it right now. I used to hear stories of guys doing the Super Bowl, and they would have to, rock, paper, scissors, who goes into the toilet during halftime to develop the film to get it to the magazines in time. You don't have that issue anymore. So yeah, the market's going to change, my point being. You've got now people who can make a choice to have analog as something that they want to do, something that they can do as one of their personal things. And now we have to start appealing to a new generation. We've got to start looking at people who've perhaps never shot film and have no frame of reference. And when I wrote that article in April, one of the things that's sort of a catalyst, something that got me into it, was I went out with my friend's kids, and I had one of my cameras with me, and I was shooting. And my friend's kid was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And he said, "Oh, can I have a go with your camera?" And I was like, sure, here you go. Handed him the camera, and he presses, shoots the picture, presses the shutter. And then he goes, "Where's the picture?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Where's the picture?" "There's no picture on the back." I said, "No, there's no picture on the back. It's a film camera." And he was like, "What's film?" And I said, and his dad chipped in and said, like, how do I explain this? So in the old days, we put pictures onto a piece of, and the kid's face was like, "What? What is this?" But my point is, they don't have any frame of reference for this. So you're looking at a generation that we have to appeal to, a new generation, and we have to make it accessible to them. If it's too complex, if it's too much faffing around, messing about, having to put stuff together, they don't want to do it. The attention spans have changed. Now we are in a generation where it's Instagram, where it's immediate access, where we get everything we want straight away. And film isn't that. And it's never going to be that. And that's what's wonderful about it, but you have to sell that as something. That's what's wonderful about it. And I think there's a certain amount of, perhaps, a feeling of being jaded now towards social media. Young people are getting woke, they're realizing that not everything online is perhaps in their favor, and maybe I shouldn't be putting everything about my life online. Maybe everything shouldn't be immediate. Why must it be, right? So I think you've seen this in, and this is one thing, Japan. Japan is a market which is it's a bubble. It's not like the rest of the world. They still have a massive amount of film shooters, and film is still a really important part of the market there. But it is a sort of microcosm, and you can see what's popular. And things like Instax film and disposable cameras are still hugely popular. And Instax has become extremely popular because you can take those Instagram-style photos, but then not have them online. And you've got them without everybody seeing exactly what you're doing all the time. And that is a really appealing part for the young people. Why should my entire life be online? I grew up in a generation where my life wasn't online when I was a kid, and that was lovely. Also means I could probably be a politician, because nobody saw what I was up to. But now they can't. Their entire life is online. If you're shooting analog, not every aspect of your life is online. And that's that separation, which is becoming an appealing point. And it's one point we need to sort of work on and show people this is what you can have. You can have a separation of your lifestyles where people don't know everything you're up to, and these personal moments are yours, you know. So, you know, in Japan we've had the boom of Instax and disposable cameras, and I think that's what you're going to be seeing more of in the rest of the world. Yes, people aren't going to put down their phones. They're not just going to, you know, get rid of their phones. They're going to see. I mean, it's an addiction. You can't put it down. But they're going to change the way they do things. They're going to take some parts of their life offline. So, you know, they're going to shoot film. Problem is, you know, the problem is you've got this film. You've got film, great. Plenty of film coming, more film coming, new filmmakers coming onto the market. As Juho said, cameras. Right, there's still millions of cameras out there. Fantastic, there's still millions, but they're getting old. There are people making new cameras. There are lots of interesting people making interesting cameras. You've got Intrepid, and you've got the Solarcan, and you've got Gibelli cameras, and people making cameras themselves. People who are trying to make new systems, new ideas, new things, right? But not all of that will work, you know, because not every one of those cameras is suitable for every photographer. And one, you know, as Juho said, we've got to sort of consolidate. We have to put things together and give ourselves an idea of what the market is and how we can all work together and how we can all, you know, keep cameras and how we can all make sure that people have something to shoot. And, you know, one of the problems I noticed when I wrote the article in April was we are going to run out of compact cameras in about 5 years' time. 5 to 10 years' time, there's going to be none left because they'll all stop working, which is absolutely not optimal. It's going to be in a situation where we're going to be without a camera that is easy to use. Yeah, we can still have disposable cameras. Cool. You know, we can still have Polaroid cameras. Polaroid has just released their, you know, one-step camera, one-step 2 or whatever, and that's done really, really well. And kudos to them for doing it. Kudos to them for bringing out that classic branding and making it something that's really appealing to young people, really easy to use. That's the point. It has to be easy to use if you want to bring new people into the fold, as it were, and make it sound like some kind of religion. Steve Jobs, anyone? So we're going to have to give them something. And this is where we've ended up. You know, we've found ourselves with no easy to access cameras, or soon to be no easy to access cameras, something that people can get into shooting analog with. That's a big problem. We're going to find, you know, if we don't have any compact cameras, if we don't have anything to shoot with, what makes it attractive for them to do so? I mean, yes, there will be some people who will go from Polaroid and things onto new processes, but it would be a much smaller channel, you know. Whereas if we have something very easy to use, there'll be a much wider channel for people to move on to different forms of expression, large format cameras, pinhole cameras, all of this sort of thing. And so that's something I wanted to work on. And, you know, Juho dropped me a line and said, hey, you know, we've kind of got the same ideas going on here. You know, perhaps you would like to, you know, work together on it, and talk about it, and do this live stream about it. So this live stream is about getting people to ask me questions, or ask us questions about how we can work together, how we can improve, what we think the market's going to be like. And, you know, how much time have we got? I've got like 10 minutes or so. Are you going to ask some questions, or? You have some questions already for me. When can I announce the, drop the thing. Is that okay to? Yeah. So drop. I make it sound so mysterious. If perhaps, guys, you could bring up that picture. So yeah, in light of not having perhaps a compact camera, I guess, well, I've been working on something, you know, thinking about something, putting my head down with a few people who are very skilled and quite thoughtful. And, you know, we've got some ideas of perhaps a compact camera that could come in the future, maybe, perhaps. Who knows? We're just working on some ideas right now, but it needs this industry, this market, it needs people to do something, to be proactive, not just to wait for something to happen, because if you wait, it ain't going to happen, you know. So pull your socks up and make it happen, you know. And if we all work together to make it happen, we will have an industry for, I believe, our children's lifetimes as well. And that's the goal, to have something for our children and their children. So yeah, have you got some questions for me? I've got loads. Yeah. Yes. Sure. I just would like to make perhaps one correction. And I said Zorki photo before, and I meant Cosmo photo, which was wrong of me. So yeah, make sure you check out people like this. There's lots of grassroots people who are working really hard to bring something new. So yeah, and let's keep it going. Pass the mic.
Yeah. So we'll have 5 to 8 minute break now. We need to set up something here. We'll show you the result pages at the same time in the stream. If you want to look at them by yourself, then you can go and have a break. And we'll set up here, and we'll be back in 7-ish minutes.
I want to eat something because it smells real.
Yeah, we have some treats here for Bellamy. think we're live, Vincent.
We're live? Sorry. Welcome back, guys. So we're going to start a Q&A session. We got a couple of interesting questions on Twitter and YouTube. So we're going to start with the first one that was asked by Jonas X70 on Twitter. And this is for both of you guys. What is your opinion on instant film camera market today?
I admire what has happened in the instant camera market. I think they're a bit in front of the analog film market in a way. It's an easier step for a young person to take to start to buy an Instax and shoot film, or buy a Polaroid and shoot film. So it's they have a greater, bigger mass going on, and a lot of more money than maybe the film manufacturers. But I think it's also maybe a role model in a way that we can actually do things if there's a strong power working on it. In the instant market, there are two big companies basically doing it, so there's a need to work more together, as we are a lot smaller companies in the analog kind of film movement.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you, Holt. Like, I don't shoot a lot of instant myself, and I never have. You know, free admission, I was not a great shooter of instant film back in the day, because I thought it would be there. You know, I didn't expect it to. Oh God, it's gone. It came as kind of a surprise. I like the fact that Instax has sort of brought a lot of new people to the concept. Although it's a bit different, they brought people to the concept of a form of analog photography. I think it's a very useful tool, and it's certainly a great creative tool. It needs to be expanded on, and it is being expanded on by Polaroid, which was impossible, now Polaroid. I think there's a bright future for that, a very creative future for that. It certainly fits into what we're doing. I have no issue with the idea of working together to build a market with that. I think it's an important aspect of what all of us do.
Definitely agree with you guys. I think there also a lot of those guys that came to Insta came from Instagram, so that's also something to take into account.
Yep.
So I hope we answer your question, Jonas. The next one, we have two questions from S Baby. I hope I pronounced this right. Ice Baby on Twitter.
Yeah, I know Ice Baby. Hey.
So the first one is, I'd love to know about how trends are creating and influencing new markets.
How trends are creating and influencing. Yeah, well, as we just mentioned with the Instax, you know, you can see the parallels between the presentation of Instagram and Instax. You know, the name, Instagram itself has driven a new market for analog photographers through people becoming interested in processors. I'm not joking, hundreds of messages a week on Instagram, hundreds. And there's loads of them asking, what film was that? What camera was that? How can I learn this? Want to get a camera. So it's definitely this new technology, this new idea, it drives the market for sure. And now you're seeing people who've seen perhaps a filter type or a photo type they've seen on social media and thought, I want to do that, and I can't do it on my phone. So yeah, these are very important parts for this market. Yeah, the way it's just, I think it's just brought it to a larger viewer audience. You know.
Next.
I think you answered it. Great. Yeah. So next question from Ace Baby. Since there are no significant new innovation in film, are there any untaped markets that have the potential to really boost the industry to become sustainable in the long term?
According to the results, there is a lot of market coming. There's a lot of young people interested, and now it's basically up to labs or other options to keep costs down if possible by getting volume up. and to create a lot of kind of a community around them. If they're physical or if they're taking by post, then just create an online community around the lab, like many labs already have done. And I think that is the main reason film is kind of coming back this year, is that there are so good labs on social media all around the world that have been posting pictures, have been posting the pictures that professionals have been doing all the time with film, but they don't post them so much or so forth. So social media has a very big role. And the other thing that came up in the questionnaire was the role of emerging markets like Philippines and Vietnam and Indonesia and Brazil that are very interested in film but do not have so much cameras from the late days. So there's also a need to move equipment from the like forgotten closets of Europe and Japan and the US.
All the collectors to 30 cameras in store.
To move them to new users that are looking for cameras.
I don't think it's fair to say that there's not much new innovation in film either, because what we're seeing now is photography manufacturers or film manufacturers who have got, yes, they've got a huge back catalogue of emulsions, but they've also got now the capability to sort of prototype a new emulsion on a computer, develop it on a computer very quickly without any of the hassle that they used to have to go through, the testing, the endless tweaks and changes. They can simulate all of this online. So they can develop new emulsions much easier than they used to be able to. So now the limit is only the chemical composition which is available to them, if they can source the chemicals to manufacture it. So you're going to see innovations in new, perhaps new emulsions, new grains, new styles, and you'll see that with Polaroid. Absolutely, you're going to see new colorways, new ways of presenting it, faster drying. So there are going to be innovations in film. And again, as Juho said, this is going to have an important aspect on the market. It's going to make it easier to develop, easier and faster to have those images, so people find it a more attractive thing. So yes, it is going to definitely drive the market for sure.
Yeah, maybe the companies were holding off to see if it was not just a fashion that would fade, and if it was worth it to invest in creating new.
I don't know if they were sort of holding off. I think they just didn't have the money, and they didn't want to take the risk. And now that money started coming in again, they're like, well, perhaps we can take some baby steps. We can actually put something into this. But also investors and investment companies are starting to see, well, there must be a potential here. Fuji sold X amount of tens of millions of Instax last year. We want in on that. So it's going to happen. Yeah. The
Instax camera were I think the most favorite and preferred Christmas present last year. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't get one.
Me neither. Okay, so next question from Kaylee Lee Boy on YouTube. Can we have an idea of the existence of film for the next 30 years for my children to try it and do film photography?
An idea of the existence of film? Well, absolutely, it will still be available. As again, it's going to change. And this comes down to, and it's something that I don't think everybody realizes, environmental issues. Some of the older films, they use things which were massively, horrifically lethal for us and for the planet, and we can't make them again. We just can't do it. Like, we will kill all of us by making them.
And the chemicals to develop those
films
they
were awful. Yeah. They were just awful. So we have to see how things have changed and how these have caused us constraints. But again, as we develop our understanding of the chemical procedures, we will gain an understanding of more efficient, more ecologically friendly methods of producing film. So yes, it's absolutely going to be available in 30 years' time. Might not be the same film, but it'll still be there.
And the availability of film is coming down to an economical problem. Kodak and Fuji are still kind of fighting it out in the very low end with Color Plus and C200. They're keeping the prices very low so that when you order it as bulk into a store, they're selling it at €1.50 or €1 out of their system, which is working for them because they don't have R&D costs anymore, and then they have the massive machines still running. This is both a very big opportunity because Color Plus and C200 will keep film very attainable or cheap for young people to come in. But once, if they stop or if they change plans or whatever happens to the big lines, it starts to become economically viable for the smaller players to do color film when you can get 3, 4, 5 euros a roll. And yes, it will double the price of the cheapest roll available, but it's not gonna, film is not gonna go away.
It's still accessible. So.
It's still accessible. It's just not so super accessible as it is now. Yeah, now, yeah.
It can't be economies of scale.
Yeah, and now it is very cheap. So now is a very good time to get new people in because it's so cheap to still in some labs are still cheap and some films are still cheap. So as an entry level kit, kind of, it's very good at the moment.
You talked about the machine that are still running, and we have an interesting question from Cameraplex. Hi, Jordan. He is asking us, where are all the machines and infrastructure that made Voigtlander, Bessa, and Fuji? He is saying that they are not that old and wondering if they were purchased, repurposed, or simply trashed.
The manufacturing capabilities for Voigtlander and the Bessa and things like that, well, they're owned by, that's Cosina. That's the Cosina group. Those machines will still be in use for other things, perhaps repurposed. They've not gone away. There is certain licensing constraints that they face, which means certain things can't be made again. They still manufacture lenses, but camera bodies, the reason that camera bodies, Bessa, the Voigtlander bodies, the R2, the Zeiss, Icon, ZM, they used a Copal electronic shutter, and the license on that expired, so those were no longer allowed to be manufactured. So they couldn't make any more cameras because of a licensing reasoning. So it's not that they can't make the cameras or don't want to make the cameras. They're not allowed to make. They're not able to make the cameras. But that may change.
And who owns this license now? Is they just like belong to nobody, or
they belong to somebody?
To somebody.
I'm not at liberty to say, unfortunately. But they're out there, and the people that hold them are aware that they are needed.
There's potential there. Yeah.
There is potential for sure, and which means there is potential if there is market demand enough, and you can prove that there's market demand enough to a company like Cosina. Then they will start manufacturing cameras again. Of course they would. Yeah. And I would hope that other manufacturers would get in on it too.
Yeah. Just about that. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
But again, there's an economical problem when Canon AE1s and like really good basic cameras are sold under 100 euros with the lens. There is very little point at the moment to do a basic camera. And it has to be a basic camera for there to be volume. So it will happen when the availability of these basic cameras goes down or the price goes up, or both, which will happen eventually. Yep.
So yeah, jumping in about the new cameras being manufactured. We have a question from Mika Rotainen. He's asking about the he's asking about the teaser we've been seeing from Yashica. He's asking if there are chances of them making a new analog camera.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's just a teaser.
I'm almost sure it's not going to happen. It was a teaser video for an iPhone camera adapter.
That's why they were showing the iPhone
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
video. Yeah.
It's an investment company in Hong Kong that owns the rights to the Yashica name. Yashica itself as a company no longer exists. You know, it's a name, and it's the same as other companies did with Polaroid. It's a name. They've taken that name. They've used the heritage behind the name. You'll see it with watch companies. You'll see it with car companies. You know, let's bring this back, dust it off. Yes, we can make some money here. I don't know if they're actually planning on making an analog camera, and if they were, absolutely commendable, wonderful. If you need some help, drop me a line, you know. But I'm pretty much sure it's going to be a iPhone clip-on.
That's going to disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah, the video, if you watched it closely, it had a Yashica GSN that she pointed at herself, and the shortest focus distance on that camera is like 1.5 meters. So it was out of focus, and I mean, yeah. Unless she's the biggest Asian woman we know.
Maybe the subject was behind her. We don't know.
Yeah. Maybe she was. Yeah. But that would point out to that wide-angle selfie thingy that they were also had on their website.
Sorry, guys, the Yashica is not making a new camera.
We're
don't know,
not
but,
100% sure, but it definitely didn't look like it.
Okay, and we are getting to the last question of this Q&A session. I kind of made up this question, but it's going to interest a lot of people, I'm sure. So we've seen a lot of interesting project about new film cameras being developed, like with the Ponf camera from Raffaello Palandri, and a more recent teaser we've seen with the reflex camera. This is being driven by Lawrence Van Thomas. And both of those cameras seems to have a modular design. And my question is, do you think the modularity is the key to make a successful camera today?
I don't think it's a key. I mean, if you would want to be really, really go the easy way, you would, well, I'm not gonna say what you should do because we might do it. No, no. But modularity. I guess everyone who wants modularity will end up finding themselves shooting large format. So, and there are plenty. Yeah, and they have plenty of users doing or companies doing large format now. So it sounds good, and it has a great market potential if you do that. But I don't know if it's a requirement in any way.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. There's complexities. The more systems you add to a camera, the more complex you make the camera, the more things will go wrong, and they will go wrong. It's a precision instrument, and people don't treat them well. It will go wrong. So they have to be aware of that, and they have to take that into account, which I'm sure they have done. I don't think it's necessarily a key, because, you know, when I put out just the question on the site about what would you want in compact camera, everybody was like, yeah, fixed lens, 28mm compact camera,
simple as
ISO
it can be.
selector, autofocus with a flash. Keep it simple, make it work forever. Make sure it never breaks down, and I'll buy 10 of them, you know. So there's something to, but maybe that's my followers and my readers, and they're different from other people who do want a modular system. I never got into modular system cameras because there was just too many variables. I couldn't control what I wanted, but for other people, that's the attraction, you know.
And that's kind of, again, the problem of making a new camera is that the second-hand cameras have such a large scale of different things you can have and buy, and there's still pretty much everything is cheap enough. Something like a Hasselblad X-Pan is getting pretty high, and a Plauvel 6.7 is getting pretty high, and there are some cameras that are getting pretty high, but they haven't even reached the price they used to sell when they were new. Not even new in box items. That's something I tend to forget, because I've been in the analog scene since 2000 and yeah, well, the compact cameras are going over, but I've been since the 2006-7 kind of, so in the price market. So for me, the prices have been going up all the time. But then, if I would have been knowing the prices since '98, then everything still would seem cheap compared to what you had then. So yes, that's a part of the reason why modular camera is what people are thinking of, because there's so much choice and you have to compete against the choice. But it's maybe kind of a Microsoft versus Apple question. Will the company tell the people what they want, or will they just give them something, everything, and yeah.
That's all for the question I've gathered online. Any of you guys have any question in the audience? No, we've answered everything, I think. Yeah, we've covered it all.
Emulsive said that the lens thingy for Yashica, it was released in July, and it was just a blogger that posted it on Analog Scene like last week, and
I saw it back in July.
Yeah.
And you said nothing.
I didn't even share it online. I didn't even look at it. I looked at it and went, I watched the video, looked at the website, checked it out, couldn't find any Japanese on there, which made me instantly suspicious, because any Japanese company always puts Japanese page. Couldn't find any Japanese, just went, no, it can't be. And then, yeah, oh, look, it's an iPhone attachment. Yeah, they're selling it now. So, yeah. Yeah.
So, lesson to be learned to the analog community, that please check the source like deeply before you share like and
speculate, Well, no, speculation's a good thing.
Yeah, speculation is
well, it's not speculation, it's hope. It's hope. Yeah. And we need a bit of hope right now. So, yeah. Check your source.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
I think that's it. Thank you for being online with us, and thank you for going through the articles. Please go through them, and if there's something in your area that doesn't match, then send us an email. If there's something that matches, or you're finding it useful, then please share it, because a lot of people have put in a lot of work into making them real. So please use the resource. It's and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the questions. And keep up the discussion. This, just because the keynotes stop doesn't mean people can't still ask questions, and be passionate and be vocal about what you want to support, and support with your wallet. Go buy film, go buy cameras, and help us collate this information so that we can build a stronger, better market. And thank you all.
Thank you, guys.